Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, great. So we're going to get started today. I'm Nikki Trasmonte with the Maryland Department of Transportation, and I will be the moderator of today's webinar on demystifying public transportation systems. So today we have a guest here from MTA, Hugh Trong. She's with the Maryland Transit Administration, and she will be our guest speaker. So just to let everyone know, the session will be recorded, and we will send a link to the recording in a few days. So during the webinar, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat, and we will have some time for Q&A at the end for any questions of discussion. So next slide. So before we dive in, we have a poll for our webinar audience. Do you currently take transit? Please type your answers in the chat. Yeah, we see some people saying yes, some people no, rarely. Okay, it looks like some people 2 to 3 days a week, a few no's, not in a long time. Yeah. Okay, well, it looks like we have a mix of different people who use transit commonly and some people once a month or rarely. So it's really great to see that we have different levels of comfortability with transit, and we're going to talk about different tips and tricks to navigate the transit system here in Maryland. So next slide. So to set some context for commuters and employers on the webinar, commuting to a workplace is something many of us do every day, and being stuck in a car, traffic, trying to get someplace by a certain time can cause lots of stress. It can also be costly. Operating, maintaining, and insuring a car is not cheap. There's also the cost of roadway congestion, environmental impacts, and when people get tired enough of their commute. Employers may also face the cost of employee turnover. So a couple of commuting statistics that we want to highlight include Maryland ranks number 3rd in the U.S. for the longest work commutes, and also only 8.1% of Maryland commuters utilize public transit. So we know commuting is an important issue for people in the state of Maryland. So next slide, please. So additionally, many of you on the webinar, especially Maryland commuters, know that since the FSK bridge collapse, many people have experienced longer work commutes, averaging over 20 to 30 minutes longer than normal travel time. Next slide, please. So one way we can improve commuting can be through TDM. What is TDM? Transportation demand management is the use of strategies to inform and encourage travelers to 1, maximize the efficiency of a transportation system, 2, reduce congestion, and 3, lower vehicle emissions, which includes measures such as promoting public transit, carpooling, telework, and more. The next slide. So as you can see on the slide, we have a moving graphic that shows how important TDM work is in alleviating congestion. So you can see that beginning graphic of people in single occupancy vehicles or driving alone versus what it looks like via different modes. So you can see bikes. Let's see if it's working for, I know sometimes these graphics can be a little slow. Bikes, there's light rail. And then you can also see congestion versus buses as well. It looks like it's not moving, but you get the idea. Next slide, please. So Commuter Choice Maryland, we're here to help. Relaunched in 2018, we are a free statewide program of the Maryland Department of Transportation. Our goal is to shift a significant share of single occupancy vehicle drivers to other modes of transportation. So I'm not sure if you saw on that graphic, but you could see the difference between congestion with cars versus other modes. We help employers set up commuter benefits. We encourage the public to use better commuting options other than driving alone. And we also manage statewide programs. So you can see on the map on the right corner of the screen, there's a network of 12 local jurisdictions that help provide customized support. So if you're in different regions of Maryland, you can check out this map on our website to see your local rideshare coordinator. Next slide, please. So as a reminder, I wanted to point out that we have a lot of resources on our resource library on MDOT Commuter Choice Maryland for employers and individual commuters. It's on commuter benefits and how to get started with any of our programs. So next slide, please. We also have an employer partner program. So it's our free program that's an opportunity for employers to be recognized for their efforts in promoting sustainable transportation and commuter benefits to their employees. So any employers on the call, if you're interested in signing up, you can drop your email in the chat or you can contact our email address directly. Next slide, please. We also have the Maryland Commuter Tax Credit. So another program we have is the Maryland Commuter Tax Credit. So it's for Maryland employers. They can earn a tax credit, which is another incentive for employers to promote these benefits. So we also have our one-stop shop where all our programs live on. It's called baltimorecommutes.org. Commuters can discover our different programs and register for them as well, like ride matching and guaranteed ride home. The first step in signing up is to create a commuter connections account through this website. So one of our programs that we want to highlight is a guaranteed ride home program. Commuters can sign up via that same website, and it's for anyone taking transit, biking, walking, driving in a carpool, any of these methods 2 times a week to work. They can get 6 free rides home from work for emergencies each year. So for example, say your kid gets sick or you have a family emergency or you get stuck working overtime. This is a great tool for people who drive because of the what if. So this is our answer to that. It is free for any commuter in the region. So we also have a program called Commuter Cash. So Commuter Cash is an app where users can log their trips and earn points. Users can earn up to $600 per calendar year for log trips. It's really simple. You can download and register through the App Store or Google Play. So the next program we have that we want to highlight is our Ride Together Rewards program, which we recently launched this past summer. So first, we have a van pool incentive program, which gives riders $500 off on the total monthly van pool cost. Some of the requirements include being eligible destinations to Baltimore City, Anne Arundel, Baltimore County, Carroll, Hartford, Howard, or Queen Anne's counties. There are some monthly reporting requirements and brief survey requirements as well. So the next program we have is our carpool incentive program. So similar to the van pool incentive program, there are monthly reporting requirements, and commuters can earn $5 a day for 90 days. So we actually are working on a new Baltimore Transit Incentive Program, which is coming soon. So if you want to get notified about this program, please subscribe to our newsletter. So we have another poll for our webinar audience. What is your biggest challenge when using transit? So A, finding a route, B, reading and understanding the schedule, C, figuring out how to pay for the trip, or D, finding a way to get me from where the bus drops me off to the place I need to go. So you could have a mixed number of answers. I could see people say in the chat. I see some people answering D, finding a way to get me from where the bus drops me off to the place I need to go. I see some A, finding routes, E, other, so it could be a mix of multiple, right? B and D, reading and understanding the schedule. Looks like that's popular as well, first mile and last mile. Right, these are all great answers. And yes, I think these are all challenges many of us face when using transit. I, for one, have had trouble with routes and trip planning, so I think this is a great discussion poll. And there's also a poll feature in the chat as well. Yep, it looks like those are the most popular. And the last mile connection, it looks like that's one of the most popular answer choices. Okay, great. Moving on. So in this presentation, we will learn about the following. We will learn about transit options available in Maryland, trip planning resources, tips on reading schedules, payment methods, and more. So today we're really excited to have a fantastic speaker with us from the Maryland Transit Administration's MTA's Office of Planning, Hugh Trong, who is the Senior Lead for Partner Relationships. I'm happy to have Hugh here today to speak about MTA's resources and some tips and tricks behind navigating transit. So Hugh, feel free to take it away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, great. Awesome. So thank you so much for the introduction. I do also want to note I am a lifelong Maryland resident with over half my life in Baltimore City. I've also used the bus, MARC, and also WMATA to get to jobs in DC over the years and over the course of my career. So let's start with MTA. So many of you are likely familiar, seeing the buses around and everything. I do want to note our coverage is more than just the Baltimore metro area. We are a statewide agency and we cover 6 different kinds of transit. You'll see the word modes a lot. That's sort of the transportation industry speak for just the different kinds of ways you can get around through our system. So that includes what we call core bus, which serves the Baltimore region, light rail, metro. We do have our metro subway line within Baltimore City and out to Baltimore County. We also manage mobility, or what sometimes you'll hear me refer to as Mobility Link, which is a paratransit service, MARC, commuter rail, and the commuter bus. I also want to mention that we also do fund and support our locally operated transit system. So this is also buses, but basically the different counties do maintain their own local bus systems as well. And so, for instance, if I'm thinking of Van Gogh in Charles County, Ride On. So you may be familiar with those in a closer way, and those are also supported by MTA. Next slide, please. So I know, like, when you're thinking, and as some people know this, when you're thinking, gosh, maybe I'll take transit, and you're like, where do I begin? I'm looking at this map, got this, putting up this MARC system map with commuter bus, which is both the MARC rail and commuter buses. That looks like a lot. Click on, please. And then there's this other map, and that's getting around the city, and that's like bus and rail, and that looks like a lot. And then next click, please. And then we also have the Baltimore link system, and this is a lot of it. This isn't even necessarily well, this is a lot of it, and I totally understand how this may feel overwhelming. So what I'm hoping to do today, next slide please, is to let's just start in a different place other than the maps. MTA over the past few years has rolled out the transit app, which I think is a much more approachable way to approach how the MTA systems can be helpful for you. So I'm going to walk you through this morning, going through those apps. The apps, very conveniently enough, do connect over to the CharmPath app. I've included a video that we've put together on how to use the CharmPath app. I'll also walk you through checking the MARC schedule online and the commuter bus schedule online. I do see someone note that Google Maps app does include transit. I will touch on that in a little bit. And then finally, I also do want to wrap up and include Mobility Link, because there's certainly folks for folks with disabilities who also need to commute to their jobs. So I wanted to make sure that for folks who need Mobility Link, you understand how to kind of access and make the most of that service. So next slide, please. So when thinking about transit for the first time, I strongly suggest, this may seem a little obvious, but at the same time, think about, like, where are you going, when you need to get there, when do you need to be back home? I certainly have 2 young kids, and I am, always, I will say that I am currently driving back and forth when I do go into the office. Part of that is like I need to make up pickup times at daycare and whatnot. But those are the kind of considerations you want to take into account. And think about what you need to bring with you, and just to plan ahead for the amount of space you might need. So in the past, when I was doing a Baltimore City to Washington, D.C. commute, I would often plan to go to the gym once I arrived home in Baltimore City. So I always made sure that I would get there in time to the train station so I have room for my gym bag along with everything else. So these are just some considerations to think about. So next slide. So for this, in terms of using the transit app, just decided like we're just going to do screenshots. We're going to walk through it. But I think the transit app is really great because not only can you see ahead to upcoming departures, route maps, you can see how the systems all line up together. You can also plan out your trip days and weeks into the future. So say you're going into an interview in Baltimore City and the interview is in a couple of weeks, you could plan for that trip now if you wanted to. I think one of the most convenient things about transit app is that it can link directly to Charm Pass. So you can seamlessly go to seeing your route and then directly to, okay, buying the fare in advance so you can have it ready for when you actually make that trip. And so next slide, please. So using transit app. For the purposes of this, I went ahead and pretended I was coming from the Weinberg YMCA in North Central Baltimore City, if any of you are familiar with that. So what you are seeing on the screen is what I saw when I pulled this up on my phone. So when you're downloading the transit app, one thing I do want to note, download the transit app and download Charm Pass at the same time, so you can have that easy transition between the two. Second of all, I would suggest using making sure that the transit app has access to your location data during the installation process. You can set it up if you're concerned about privacy. You can set it up to allow for the app to only have your location data when you're using the app as well. But as you can see here, when you first open it up, it pings onto my location, and I could see the bus stops that were closest to that location. Next slide, please. So when you drill down into those routes, and by the way, I do want to note, I am seeing a lot of great conversation in the chat out of the corner of my eye. We can definitely get to that, some of those questions or some of those comments at the end of the presentation. But when you're looking at that route, just want to drill down a little deeper into explaining what you actually see. So for instance, at that Weinberg YMCA, when the closest bus stops is the Silver Line, which you can see the route name, the Silver Line, and then you can see the direction that particular buses are going to. So in this case, there were 3 buses that are approaching that particular stop, heading down towards Curtis Bay in South Baltimore. You can see those successive times. That's a real-time indicator. The little, let's say, called radiating arc icon notes that that particular bus does have a GPS tracker, so you can actually see its approach in real time. You can also see the name of the stop that's right by the Weinberg Y, which is the 33rd Street Ellerslie Avenue stop. Last thing, I want to note that what you can do here is that if you look under available directions, you see those 2 dots, you can actually swipe back and forth between the different directions. So all transit lines have 2 endpoints. In this case, for the Silver Line, the southern end is in Curtis Bay in South Baltimore. The other end is actually at Morgan State University. So if I wanted to, for this, if I swiped right, you would see the information for the buses heading towards Morgan State University. If you swipe the other direction, heading towards Curtis Bay. Next slide, please. So with this is a scenario. So I was thinking too when I was putting this together of my previous long commute, I was thinking, okay, well, let's pretend I have an interview down in DC and I wanted to get to Union Station. Well, with Transit app, what I would do is I would click where that yellow circle or orange circle is with the arrow, and I would just type in where I was heading to. So you can see there, typed in Union Station. It popped up right away. And then next slide, please. Then immediately I would get suggested routes on how I could get to Union Station. But if I left now, you can adjust. Now, the nice thing is you can adjust the schedules and the suggested routes by when you want to leave, and head out, or when you want to get to a specific destination. So in this case, in this scenario, I was saying, let's pretend I'm trying to get to a morning interview, Union Station. I had put this presentation together earlier in September, so I said, let's pretend Wednesday, September 10th. I want to get there at around 8:25 or so. So click on that leave now. I could select arrive by and put in the date and time. Next slide, please. This is my pause. This is my note on Google Maps. Google Maps is actually a really great way. And I think the commenter the attendee who mentioned Google Maps does bring up transit. However, as you can see here, it gives you the overall sense of what the distance and the journey might be. But the difference between that and transit app is that Google Maps doesn't give you that easy connection to Charm Pass and the transit app, I think, gives more information on the upcoming stops and can more easily access that real-time information. So want to acknowledge that, but there are benefits to using the transit app. Next slide, please. So back to my pretend interview down in DC. So I see this up and I'm like, okay, look, so these are my options if I want to get to Union Station at 8:30. I could leave at 6:42 in the morning, catch the 54 bus. So you can see there's those little rounded rectangles denote different bus lines or rail lines or train cars that I could catch to get to my destination. This is a trip that if I was going to go solely through transit, I would have to take the bus, in this case, the 54, down to Penn Station, and then catch another train from Penn Station in Baltimore City to Union Station. The other nice thing about this, it tells you when you should leave, how long the trip will be, and then after you pick the route, you can see the full travel route, and then it'll remind you, yeah, this trip will be about 1 hour 37 minutes. So next slide. And then from there, you can scroll down further. You can find out how many stops to expect. So you can kind of mentally plan it. Okay, I'm going to be on the bus and it'll make this many stops and I'll see X, Y, and Z and I'll have this much time to maybe prepare, maybe on the bus ride, get my MARC train ticket ready through Charm Pass and be prepared so when I arrive at Penn Station, I can jump on that train. So that is using Transit app. Now you may be wondering, what if I'm trying to take the bus and the app isn't working? My phone is dead. I don't get a good signal. There are other alternatives. If it's just a matter of the app not working, you can always text our MTA MD line and text the bus stop information to find out when the next bus is coming. We also do have a great phone number, 1-866-RIDE-MTA. You can call, you can have that conversation, or if for whatever reason you have access to the internet, but your phone's just having some problems, we also do have a real-time information page. Next slide, please. So I also did want to talk about reading MARC schedules on the web page and I thought this frankly because when I was planning my commutes before the transit app, I would actually take a look at the schedules online. So I wanted to take a moment to give you all a chance to orient around our web page a little bit. So I have a video. And so as you can see, this web page, what you want to do is go to getting around, and then in this case, go to the MARC train station. We have 3 lines. In this case, I was thinking, talking a lot about Baltimore, DC, let's talk about the Brunswick line, and let's talk about getting to DC from points in the DMV and in Western Maryland and West Virginia. So this is what the MARC schedule looks like. And as you can see, you can, again, plan ahead. In this case, I'm looking at the 30th. Let's pretend we're going from Frederick. And then let's pretend that we're actually heading to Silver Spring. And you can see, click Get Schedule. There are 3 trains that leave from Frederick in the morning to head down south. So you can, as you're taking a look, you can see that's the route. Frederick actually operates as a spur off the Brunswick line. The rest of the Brunswick line goes out to West Virginia. And you can kind of take a look and see, say, 5 o'clock is too early. I'm taking the 6:05. You can see when exactly it gets to Silver Spring. So 7:27 a.m. And then you can flip and see when you can get back home. So you can go from the outbound, what's called the outbound, to the inbound. So you can reverse directions and you can see, okay, these are my options for getting home. And in this case, you will want to adjust it for getting home to the Frederick MARC because it is on that spur. Pull up the schedule. The schedules will read from Union Station because that is the endpoint. But then if you expand it, and I'm going to give it a moment. I'm getting ahead of my own video here. You can take a look at the different directions. But if you expand it, you can see when exactly you can expect to pick the train up from Silver Spring, which is the first stop after Union Station. If you prefer to take a look at static maps, we do have the PDF schedule and the route map available if that's something you would prefer. And then if you really want to drill down to it, this is where you can you can look at the timetable. There's a little icon there to let you know whether or not you'll be able to bring your bike on board. There's also a little bit of additional information about the particular train as well. But this is the gist, and this is what you can see when you examine the train information on the website. So it is different than the transit app, but in some ways, if you really want to get in the nitty gritty and kind of examine all the options, this is a good way to go. Okay, next slide. Okay, similarly, commuter bus. We're going to go through the same thing real quick. So same thing, getting around, go to the commuter bus schedule. There are many options, and I acknowledge that in the comments, note that there's no commuter bus from Kent Island to State Center here in Baltimore City that allows an 8-hour day and a bus ride home. And that is definitely something to note. In this particular case, as I'm walking through a similar scenario, this time Ellicott City and Columbia down to DC. So again, you can always adjust ahead. In this particular scenario, I was thinking, hey, let's take a look at taking it from Snowden River to 18th Street and Penn. Again, you can see the bus schedules, your options to leave in the morning, head down to DC. You can take a look through all the different stops that you can expect this line to make. And then you can also see what buses you could take to get home. And that way you could understand how long that ride might be. It's also, particularly for buses, good to know how many stops it might make to kind of take into account, the puzzle of how much traffic this bus might run into, and kind of taking that into account too. But this is the bus schedule for this particular line. And then next slide. And then finally, how do I pay? And then hopefully enough, MTA, we have a video on YouTube on how to access Charm Pass, which I believe we are pulling up right now. There we go. Hey, Maddie, I think you might have to unmute it, unmute yourself so the audio plays.
Let me know if this works.
Sure.
Is it working?
Unfortunately, no, the audio isn't working.
1 second. Sorry about that, everyone.
Please bear with us, but I will say that having used the Charm Pass before I've joined MTA, I thought it was pretty straightforward to use. Okay, a better explanation on the timetables and if all the trains show. Oh, please go right ahead.
Let me know if you can hear this audio.
Sure.
CharmPass is the official mobile ticketing app for the MDOT MTA. Now you can pay for the Baltimore Link local bus, light rail link and metro subway link, commuter bus, and MARC train right from your smartphone and activate your ticket in seconds. The app is free to download for Apple and Android devices, and there are no additional fees to purchase MDOT MTA products. If you have already downloaded the app, you are ready to get started. Go ahead and create your account for quick and easy payment. Enter your first and last name, email, your phone number, create a password, and agree to the terms and conditions. Allow the app to access your location to provide you better service. Now you're ready to buy your mobile ticket. You can buy tickets anytime and activate them when you are ready to ride. First, choose your service: Baltimore Link, commuter bus, or MARC train. Next, select your fare type. Riding with friends or family? You have the option to buy multiple tickets at once. This is where you'll add your payment method. You have the option to pay with your Google Pay, Apple Pay, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, Amex, and PayPal account. Your payment method will be saved for future purchases. When you're ready to ride, you'll find all your purchased tickets within the My Tickets tab. You can then choose which ticket you'd like to use. Activate your ticket as you prepare to board. Then show the operator the animated ticket so they can verify you paid. You may be asked to tap your screen for additional verification. Should you need to use more than one ticket, tap the My Ticket tab, choose the ticket you want to activate, and select the quantity. The operator will be able to see you have multiple active tickets when you show them the animated screen. If you have any questions, click on the Accounts tab and navigate to the FAQ section to review the frequently asked questions. You can also send your questions or feedback by selecting Contact Us. Next time you want to ride with MDOT MTA, use CharmPass. No cash is needed.
Build a website you love with Wix.
All right. Well, hopefully that was helpful. As noted, you can also, in addition to using the app to buy standard fare, you can also use it for senior, reduced, and disability fare. And in the presentation itself, there is a link to the form to apply for those things. You can still buy physical tickets. So there are ticket vending machines available at all of the MARC and light rail stops. But if you'd like a pass there, I would recommend visiting the MTA Commuter Direct website as well if you would like a physical pass. Cash fare is still accepted on the bus. Next slide. Okay, I also want to touch on mobility link as well, because I think that's such a important part of part of our system and such a useful part of our system. So with Mobility Link, Mobility Links exist for people with disabilities who are unable to get to a bus stop unassisted, or wait unassisted, or board or ride a bus by themselves. So it is a door-to-door service. It's available within 3/4 of a mile of any local bus route, light rail stop, metro stop. That 3/4 of a mile doesn't apply to mark stations or commuter bus stops, unfortunately. One-way fare is $2.20 for riders and eligible guests, so such as children if you need to bring kids along with you for whatever reason. And if you need a personal care attendant, they can ride for free. Apologies. So next slide, please. So in terms of using Mobility Link, in a lot of ways, I would recommend calling the phone number on there to make a reservation. The reason why I recommend calling them as opposed to, say, necessarily using the transit app is that the reservation agents are really the only ones who can confirm whether or not your destination is within the service area. So they're the only ones who can confirm whether or not where you want to go to is within that 3/4 of a mile of a particular bus stop or service area. So you will need a Mobility Link ID card, which I'll touch on in the next slide. But I also want to note before I get there that you can do subscription trips for recurring trips, such as that job. So there are 20 trip ticket books available for purchase at 6 St. Paul Street in Baltimore. Or you can purchase it online. Next slide, please. So the Mobility Link ID card, and this is what you'll need to have to take advantage of Mobility Link. The application has two parts. First part is completed by you, the rider. The second part is completed by a healthcare professional, and then you do need to attend an in-person appointment for that final determination. We do have a mobility rider's guide. So if you have more questions about Mobility Link, I'd recommend visiting our site and taking a look at that. And with that, that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh, so much for giving such a great overview of MTA's resources and what's available for commuters in the region navigating transit systems. Especially, I love the scenario analysis you gave. I think that was great for different areas of commuting in Maryland. For those of you tuning in other regions, I hope this information is useful for your local transit systems. And I'd also like to highlight a bonus resource that's shared by our local rideshare coordinator of Baltimore County, Lillian Bunton. There's a beginner's guide to transit in Baltimore County. It has an overview of transit services, a guide to planning trips, and understanding transit schedules. So next slide, please. So just to recap today's webinar, Hugh talked about the following. First, to download the transit app to figure out your route options. 2, ways to pay for your ride easily. We saw that video of the CharmPass app and alternative methods of paying. And then 3, finding MARC and commuter bus schedules on the MTA website. And lastly, downloading the Mobility Link as an option for riders with disabilities. So we're really glad you're all here today to learn about the different resources that exist in Maryland and the terms of best practices of commuting and all the new incentive programs going on in the region. Next slide, please. So now we want to hear from you. I see there's some questions in the chat already, but if you have any other questions as well, you can drop them in. It looks like, I guess this question is for you, Hugh. It says, Smart Trip seems to work on Link buses. Will that continue?
I personally would have to double check that.
Okay.
If you wouldn't, but the director of the Office of Planning at MTA, Liz Gordon, is on the line. So she looks like she's handling that in the chat right
okay.
now. Thanks.
Perfect.
Thanks so much, Liz.
Thank you, Liz.
Okay.
And then I'll scroll through to see. There's some comments about different lines. There is a question from Christiana. I believe that our trains are the only ones that operate during bad weather or holidays. Is that correct?
Yeah, let me actually, I need to take a quick look. I will say that on the website, if you look at the timetables, yeah, it looks like, so those are, so there are is, those are the only, only trains that will operate if there's snow. If that, otherwise it's the full schedule, and the ones without the R also operate.
Perfect, thank you. And I see another question in the chat. How can employers help promote transit options to their employees? So I could, yes, you. Sorry, I
No,
think
no,
the
no. I
audio
was
cut out.
actually going to leave it to you, or if anyone else from Commuter Choice wanted to
Yeah, of course.
Richard.
So any employers in the region, if you're interested in promoting transit options, we're more than happy to help promote that by either conducting a lunch and learn at your employee quarters, or we can even promote it through like educational resources, so newsletter content, doing travel training, so we can show people how to navigate transit. So let's say you're in the Baltimore region, and you want to be more familiar with taking the buses and the local trains, we can help with that. So that's another option as well. Thank you for that question. Let me see if there's anything else. I see another question. Is there a discount on Charm Pass for frequent riders or commuters who ride daily?
Yeah, we do have, let's see, we do have our special fare programs. We also do have passes. So there is, apologize, I'm pulling it up. We do have our 3-pack, so it's 3 one-day passes all lumped together. We have our 10-pack, we have a 7-day pass, we have a 31-day pass. And the same thing goes for the train and the commuter bus too. There are ways you can get discounts by buying the passes in bulk.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Hugh, for that resource. I've utilized that before too, and you can save a bit. So I think it's good to buy it in bulk.
Absolutely,
Okay.
especially if you're going regularly, that monthly pass, super helpful.
Let's see if there's anything else that I might have missed in the chat. I see someone asked about a similar video. I might have missed that. Oh, is there a similar video of how to navigate scheduling app? Well, you did go through like the route planner.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did not, as I was putting this together, I did not find a similar video for transit app. But I'm sure that, yeah, I think that's something that we can definitely take note of and consider for the future.
Thank you. And then I think I'll leave it. There's another question. If you live in Baltimore City, how can you get to UMBC campus? I believe you can always use the trip planning resource to help navigate the best route for you to get to your campus.
Yes, and I do, as a UMBC alumni, I also remember that there are also shuttles that UMBC also privately runs between, I think specifically downtown, like University of Maryland, over to UMBC.
All right, great. And then there's another question. Are you using fare capping?
So, I think, let's see. I think I will have to defer to Liz, but I think we do, but if I understand the definition, because I'm just double checking that. Yeah, like I think if you do fare capping is basically using that pass, that 5-day, 7-day, or 31-day pass.
Okay, great.
But Liz is also asking, can you clarify what you mean by fare capping?
Perfect. And then we can follow up with those resources. It looks like Liz is handling that. And I believe, are there any other questions? See one more. Says, I am familiar with the MDOT regional transit system, but I do not live there. How would you describe transit use pre and post COVID today?
I think, I'm kind of curious if you can explain further what you mean by describe. I think there's a number of, I see listing post-COVID is less commute hour focus. I think people were using it for commutes, certainly for specifically for work commutes. And I think post-COVID, I think the trip numbers are starting to get up. Ridership quantities. I think I'll defer to Liz on this further. In terms of pre and post-COVID. Thank you, Liz. Okay. So saying people travel as much as pre-COVID, but fewer commute trips.
Perfect. And different modes have recovered different percentages. Okay.
Creating.
Oh, it looks like there's clarification for that definition. And then for trends, it says the highest is core bus approaching 90%, so for post-COVID.
And I see people are clarifying fare capping is a way passengers can save money. I don't think we have, and again, defer to Liz of that, I don't think we have another way for passengers to save money on single tickets without using something like a monthly pass.
Okay. Well, it looks like we had great discussion and clarification on kind of the trends that are going on for transit and like the region and kind of like the era that we're in, and information on MTA resources, especially with like fares and payments. If you have any follow-up questions for Hugh or us here at MDOT, please feel free to email us after the webinar if we didn't get back to you, and we can follow up with more information. And thank you so much, Hugh, for just sharing all your resources. They've been so great. And it looks like Liz is following up with more information too as well.
Yes, and thank you, Liz, for noting the low-income access programs, the reduced fare program as well.
And it looks like I think we can move on to just the last portion of the webinar, just to be mindful of everyone's time. So we look forward to staying in touch with everyone. For our employers that are on the webinar, if you're interested in joining our employer partner program, please feel free to contact us directly or drop your email in the chat. For any individual commuters on the webinar, please sign up for our newsletter to figure out more about our commuting options in the region and latest news about incentives going on in Maryland. So we also have another webinar coming up in December. It's going to be on the Maryland commuter tax credit, so employers can learn more about tax credit savings and how they can do that for their company. And thank you so much, everyone, for your time. We will send a recording shortly in a couple of days. And if you flip to the last slide, this is our contact information for our Commuter Choice Maryland email address and our webpage. So if you're interested, please follow us on social media and connect with us. And thank you so much for your interest in our program and also MTA's resources. Thank you, Hugh, again, and your whole team. And we hope to see everyone in December. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Hugh.